Yeah, I'm gonna keep and stick to Faze.
Give it a spicy one though. Give us the spiciest one you got.
Spiciest one? Faze is not making the major.
Well, no, because obviously not. Obviously not, because they're going to lose in the 2-2 game to Falcons with simple, aren't they? Exactly. We're on the same page, me and you, mate.
Listen to me, Duncan. There is one little thing that you.
They're going to play NIP into fucking Faze at the major.
They're going to lose to Rez.
There is one more little calculation.
Come on.
What calculation that you missed out? There is no 16 spots anymore, Duncan. There is 14.
Okay.
So there is 2 spots left.
Well,
out
it's
of
going
the
to be really
36
heartbreaking
teams.
for whoever Falcons kick out there. I know it's really unfair.
The bottom line is Faze not making the major is kind of a value bet if you're a betting man, right?
Okay.
It's a value bet because look at their form and results lately. And the games they played, the games they won, how they won them, and the games they lost to who they lost. Like in the Pro League, in the playoffs, they lost to Complexity. Complexity is struggling massively. Lucky for them, there is 7 spots in the NA, so they are probably good for the major.
Yeah.
But like other than that, Complexity is in a shit spot right now. They lost in the opener against Sangal team that hasn't been playing LANs very rarely. That's their first LAN, a young team that just came in and just 13-1 them, 13-2 them on Anubis. On the CT side, it was 10-2. Like, they struggle against NIP and Rez. They struggled against FlyQuest. They beat Sangal to make it to the fucking playoffs. And then they lost to Complexity. That's their, recent form. And then you have Blast, where they lost to G2. Beat your Falcons. Beat Liquid, and they lost to Navi, which is, I guess, a fair thing. But the overall, in the if you look at it, like I said, the gambling way, the value is for them not to qualify, and there is a decent chance for them not to qualify, even if they, let's say, will be in the first matchup, and then they ran into somebody stronger than them, like Spirit, like G2, like somebody that's in form that puts them into 1-1, and then there is a problem, right? Then there is that 1-1 game that can put you in 1-2 if you have a bad start, and then all of a sudden you're out. Because there is 7 spots. I don't know how the rule book goes for the Swiss system back then, but if you're 1-2, I imagine that you're going to be in a shit spot, right? So I can see a world where FaZe in a bad form right now underperforming the RMR, because we saw them, was it in Rio when they went 0-3, losing to Cloud9 and Vitality and Bad News Eagles, and they lost to Bad News Eagles once more, right?
Yep.
And then it's just we saw that happening with the same lineup. That's the same lineup. Maybe Frozen wasn't there, but basically it was the similar.
No, it was the same Twist one.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus Paris as well.
Yeah, so why couldn't that happen again? I think it can, because this RMR is going to be extremely strong. You're going to have these teams that are already strong in good form. You're going to have these sleeper teams that are coming in, like Saw. You saw, like, they show up on the fucking event, they reach the semifinals somehow, they feel it, I think FaZe was one of the teams they beat even. And it's just like, you're going to end up in a very difficult spot, especially if you are mentally not right there as a unit, as a team, because of the lack in form, lack in confidence in like all this shit that is happening around the team. You can end up in a very bad problem if you are FaZe. And we have been counting on them like they're the top 2 team right now for too long, even though they're not. Right now, that's not them. We saw who are the best teams right now, who plays the best Counter-Strike, who has the best individuals. That's G2, that's Vitality, that's Spirit, that's, Navi. All these people are like in form. And that's like only 4 teams that I mentioned that's going to be going to the major like 100%. And then I think there is a world where they struggle completely and they flop this RMR, and that might be the trigger for like a full-on like switch or whatever, like rebuild of the FaZe squad.
It would be interesting to start theory crafting who they would replace. Maybe it's a guy that I downplayed at the heights of his career already, but we're not gonna have to worry about that. FaZe is making it. FaZe is making it through this RMR. I'm not concerned about them. Their regional standing was high enough where the seeding is going to be favorable enough for them early on in this that they're not like the top 3 seeds or anything like that. I think it's Navi, Spirit, G2, Mouse are like the top 4, but FaZe is, I think, maybe 5th or 6th. And I think
but
for some reason Astralis is there.
I have to cut you off because if you have 16 teams right in one group, the seed number 1 is playing against seed number 9, and seed number 2 is playing seed number 10. Seed number 3, so it might be like a little bit, fucked for them, right? If that's the case, because I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that looking at the bottom of these teams at the RMR for Europe, I'm just gonna say there's a steep drop off. I respect a handful of these tier 1.5, tier 2 teams. Like, obviously, we have to start giving credit to teams like Saw and even Sangol in some ways for what they've done lately. But a couple of these teams have actually kind of imploded. Like Aurora and Nine Pandas, I'm just going to say right now, Resalt absolutely decimated both these teams. Like, so these teams are not even a concern for me anymore because Resalt was like, I think that Nine Pandas is going to be better. They've just been trashed since then. And also Aurora's been trashed since then. And those were kind of the scary upset teams to me before, and I just feel like they've fallen off the face of the earth. Passion UA is like a little bit scary, and then we get to the bottom couple rows, and it's like Rebels, Gamer Legion, Sashi, and TSM will not be beating FaZe under any circumstances. Neither will Dynamo or Nemiga. I'm a little bit worried about like the baits, or maybe like, yeah, sure, like Falcons gets a little bit scarier with Simple, but a couple of these teams just had these weirdly hot runs for the close qualifier, and I haven't seen any sustained success from most of them. So nah, I don't think that they're gonna. The chance that FaZe are making it through the RMR for me is like.
Many times did we see and did we say these things like you're saying right now about circumstances?
And they always make it. And they always
somehow
make it.
They made an upset, right? Teams like fucking whatever. It can be Rebels, it can be Sinners, it can be Sashi, Aurora. Doesn't fucking matter who it is, right? Even NIP.
I'll bet against the Nafany-led, Hooksy-led teams of the world to not make it through the RMR. I'm not betting against a Kerrigan-led team.
No, that's what they call a value bet. Like, it's not. There is value to it, considering all the circumstances.
You're acting like there's implied odds for what you're saying when it's the hot take is that they are not making it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like presenting the full picture to you. Like, why would you bet FaZe not to?
You're like betting it's like 3.85 odds or something like that. You're putting your money.
Here's my problem with that take is that it started off. Remember, Maui correctly at the end reframed it, which is what ruined the take. Because he started off like this. He goes, FaZe isn't making the major. Now, immediately, what he's just said there is a complete outlier in history. Now, true, they barely made it through that one with the last chance qualifier. They could have failed that one for Blast Paris. There's times they could have failed, but the point is they never did fail before. So you can't then appeal to history and go, and then when they made the major, they lost to Bad News Eagles. Well, we'll have to do it. Yeah, you're right. They could, in theory, have lost to them in the RMR, but they didn't. And so history says they make the major, but then just go badly and come last place. If you asked me, could they make the major and not make top 8 because Simple knocks them out? Yeah, of course. That's a totally sane take that anyone who knows the game, I know, or Rez just gets busy on their ass, rains them. Basically goes head to head with Rain, and Rain goes, oh my God, it's like playing a mirror match in like fucking one of those fighting games. I can't beat you, you're me, but with better skills. So obviously that can happen. No, here's the problem. I will say, the thing that scares me about FaZe is this. That whole thing of like, oh, they only perform in the big moment when the lights are brightest and they're on the stage. Right, here's the problem. That is sort of it's not totally untrue. Like you saw from people like Team Liquid at Cologne, that does happen sometimes. That kicks in and they do have a clutch factor. But the issue is this. It isn't 2022. In 2022, they almost couldn't fail. That was back when FaZe would come like mostly like, they'd make the playoffs and lose at worst. That was a bad tournament for them most of the time. Because back then we only had, let's be real, that's why Rich used to say CS sucked. We had like 5 good teams and everyone else was just like a flawed team or a shit roster. And even some of the top teams were like a Hooksy G2 or like a scuffed Vitality. They hadn't got it together again. Like some of those teams were, Na'Vi was having all the Russia-Ukraine conflict things and they were and then they kicked out fucking Boomage and they got some, so basically that scene back then was sort of predictable and you could sort of say things like, they won't really beat us. We'll just turn it on at the end of the game. Nowadays, we're in a world, I think there's actually what changed in 2023, where all these teams that make it through the RMR, through the online qualifiers shit, that are the tier 2 grinders, the Gamer Legions, the Monties back then, the teams that are around now, because they've played a million fucking games and they've played every rando style possible on the internet, they just come in with literally sometimes like smokes that you've never seen before. Like they just have a smoke that isn't used at tier 1. And so suddenly, this never happened in the old days. Tier 2 can have an edge on you tactically, or they can have an edge. And you're not studying them. They know you. By the way, they don't even have to know you. They watch the bloody tournaments you play. They see you play. And then also, when you get... So essentially what I'm saying is group stages are way more dangerous now than they were back then. Like back then, you could sort of know... I mean, FaZe even used to do this in the group stage. When they won tournaments, they'd fuck around on the last match qualify. Mate, you do that now in MR12 with this dog shit map pool, some clown-ass team will beat you on an Ancient or an Anubis in a way that they couldn't back in the day on Overpass. You know what I mean? That overpass win was really fucking hard to fluke, guys. Unless you were like a specialist team like Gamer Legion, by the way. You're not. You look at these other maps. By the way, this even ties into some of the things people don't like about CS2. In Ancient, by the way, your whole... If you play like a 13-11 game, it could literally be decided by like the clipping of a fucking smoke on a brick. That could decide whether there's what it could have a molly, could spread or not spread or not. You know what I mean? There are some insane fucking like weird things that you can't predict for at the moment. By the way, all about when we saw Rops on Anubis and Dust 2, even at the win, I've seen him fail a basic jump because the clipping on the jumps is fucked up. Suddenly that can cost you like a godlike round. That in CS2 he makes that jump every time and he gets the kill on the guy. Then he moves back and does that amazing 1v3 drop shit. Even that's more sussy. And then you look at them in general in the game. They're doing this thing now that I hate, which is because in CS2 you need all this firepower. I mean, even Na'Vi showed it. We're just getting all this firepower out their players to get them close wins. You know, it's close wins. Remember, Na'Vi can have like 3 people do 1.2 rating and they win 13-11 and then in overtime. You don't dominate. There's so much fragging needed in CS2 that I think the part of Faze that doesn't work anymore is I used to say they did it by committee, as in one game Twist pops off, then Brokey pops off, then Rops pops off. Nowadays you need like 2 or 3 all the time. You can't have like one guy do it. If like, you've seen it actually, Rops has had some games recently where for one series he carried and then the others played like shit and they lost a saw. And then Roki has a series where he's dominating, but then the others have a bad game and, you know, Frozen doesn't get in the game and baits a bit too much and then Rops has some bad calls. It's like, I feel like right now Faze is really right on the brink. It's why I actually do think in a fucked up way, this is what people don't realise. I actually go the other way to other people. Other people think, maybe after this major, Carragher will retire. No, because you're thinking like Kassad. If he fails, then he'll just go, well, time to call it quits, isn't he? Here's the joke. I think the only reason Carragher retires is if he wins the major. If he won the major, you might actually go, you know what? I actually have accomplished it all. It's all good. I've got my CS2 major too. I did it. You know what? He can't get better than this. Maybe it is time to... Spoiler, I think he's always going to become the coach. He's going to become the coach of Faze Clan, bring in whoever he brings in to be IGL. Whereas I actually think the joke is, knowing Carragher, if he bombs this major, it's no way he's leaving on a bombed major, mate. He's coming back for next year. And he's going, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but... Right. I'm going to have to do it one more time. Thing. Yeah. So I actually I don't think it's, here's the thing. I don't think it's implausible because I wouldn't bet on it. Obviously, like you say, you're doing it for like the value end, but it is so dangerous in these tournaments now. And especially think of it. This is where we haven't seen a major yet, guys. We've only had PGL Copenhagen, right? The worst thing now about that Swiss system is those randomised draws plus the MR12 plus the ship map pool plus all these teams you don't know. Bro, it's those single lives. And remember, I think the worst feature of the RMR is when you play like those first BO1s like so quickly in succession. Oh, mate, you have a bad day, you can get clapped on those ones. And you don't have time to prep for people. You don't know whether you're playing. Oh, there's definitely way more danger than there ever was before. I know in people's brains, they look at Faze and they go, look, a bad tournament's like 9th place. No, there's a world where they could fail to make the major. I think they'll make it, though. They'll make it. It's all good.
And that all adds to the value of my take, Maui. Okay. You know, the value.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.